All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Monday. I'm still sick, but I'm going to power through. Lots to talk about.
Despite my best advice, he is going to, in fact, power through. The news is too interesting. What are you going to do? You know?
Yeah.
We've got, there were lots of reactions over the weekend to Google's layoffs and how they were handled, and also just the reckoning coming to the culture that in many ways Google created.
Yeah, we have tons of TikTok videos. People are trying to process this massive layoff by Google after Microsoft and Salesforce and Amazon and Facebook. And we have a talk about perhaps reaching peak employment. It feels like we've reached peak employment.
It does. And that feeling is only exacerbated by the rise of OpenAI and ChatGPT and how quickly AI is progressing. Microsoft codified its deal with OpenAI. So we have a couple new details about that, including that OpenAI will have a lot more access to a lot more real-time information.
Elliot Management, the activist investors, also made a multi-billion-dollar deal to invest in Salesforce. I think we all know what that means. And this is after other activist investors got involved with Google, which resulted in layoffs. Now it looks like Elliot Management is going to probably pressure Salesforce to make some more cuts.
I got to say, I thought Salesforce was untouchable for so long that this is a pretty big deal. And then finally, we have a cool and creepy and fascinating and super useful We Live in the Future. NVIDIA made a kind of insane update to their Broadcast 1.4 software. AI generated eye contact.
Yes, you don't have to get trained on this anymore. You can just have the software do it. It's going to be a great show.
Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Embroker's Startup Insurance Program helps startups secure the most important types of insurance at a lower cost and with less hassle. Save up to 20% off of traditional insurance today at Embroker.com/twist. And while you're there, get an extra 10% off using offer code TWIST. LinkedIn Jobs. A business is only as strong as its people, and every hire matters. Post your first job for free at linkedin.com/twist. And Meowtel. Traveling soon? Book a local and insured sitter on Meowtel, the #1 cat sitting app. Save $25 on your first booking with code TWIST25.
All right, everybody. I can't believe it's Monday. I'm still sick.
God, you really are.
This is the worst sickness I've had perhaps in my life. I mean, this is like 5 times or 10 times COVID. I've lost my voice, just upper respiratory, but it's broken. So over the weekend it broke and I've been steaming and yeah.
You're on the road to recovery. I've got another friend who has this right now and it is scary. Yeah. I definitely am like, I'm either not going to leave the house or wear a mask everywhere because it seems bad. Bad. Anyway, I'm glad you're feeling better.
This upper respiratory thing has been going around. I probably got it from the kids.
RSV, man.
Yeah. And so, which is interesting because at the same time this is all happening, there seems to be some ongoing debate, and not just amongst like fringe people of like, did the vaccines work? I don't want to open that whole thing up here, but there's like a whole, like what actually happened during COVID, and because the vaccines obviously are not super effective in preventing you from getting something, but they do mitigate the.
They're not for RSV though.
No, not that. at all.
You mean like because there's this whole like sickness right now?
Yeah, there seems to be a whole rehashing of, who are the smart people? The people who took the vaccine or the people who didn't take the vaccine? And so people are trying to drag me into this conversation.
Don't get dragged into that conversation.
Like, who the hell knows? Because
it's hard to ask the dead ones.
Right. So there's this concept
there's
of like, that. People did die from it. And there's also COVID has been like 4 or 5 major waves in different versions.
Yeah.
So they said the whole time they said COVID was going to get weaker and weaker, right? That's the trajectory of these.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a pretty well-known fact. So if you're comparing the version people are getting now to the version people were getting at the start, it's like 2 different goalposts. And so your decision-making might be very different now than it was during the height of this thing, right?
Right.
And then we also know stuff about age, like what age.
We definitely know things really about age and comorbidities. I mean, it's like unvaccinated people had 13 and 53 times the risks for infection and death, respectively. So you were 53 times more likely to die from COVID if you were unvaccinated, according to the CDC. I mean, like nobody ever, I think we also sort of, I don't, what is wrong with me? Why would I sit here and get drawn into this conversation? I do think people I'm feel totally like guilty. Yeah. I am 100% guilty of being like, I got 4 freaking boosters. Like, why do I have to still worry about getting this thing?
4 boosters? Wow.
I mean, I've had 4 shots, I think.
I did 3. Yeah. I did 1 booster, I guess. I'm, at this point, it's like,
my ex-husband's one of those people. He's like, we got to get them all or whatever. And, the thing with my mom and how it's definitely going to kill her way sooner as a result, because it's done so much damage to her body. And she was vaccinated, Yeah, like, I mean, I think I don't think there's any doubt in the scientific community. Like, ask any doctor. Like, my friend's husband is an ER doctor. The people who are in the hospital dying from COVID are unvaccinated, period. Like, it's just that simple. It doesn't mean, like, the COVID vaccine, maybe the mistake was thinking you wouldn't ever get it.
Yeah.
And that might have been a failure of communication. Yeah. They maybe oversold it a little bit. But, like, everybody, you get a flu shot, you could still get the flu. Like, people sort of know that.
They seem to think, I think at the beginning that, everybody was going to be a blocker and you were not going to get it and you were not going to transmit it. And, it was more like it's going to prevent you from dying. It's going to lower the risk of death and mortality. Yeah. But I just wish people would do some more research on this. Like, maybe we should fund some research.
I just wish they would do some more actual like marketing and information about it because the research exists.
Well, I don't think we know. Remember when they did the 9/11 commission? Like they kind of like did a really full.
I wish we would get a commission. 100%.
I think we need to do like a 9/11 style commission on this because it's became so partisan, and then you add to it conspiracy theories, and then you add to it, it changes constantly. Like it would be great if they just did like a 9/11 style commission. I felt like the 9/11 commission did a really good job.
Yes,
of like what we knew, when we knew it, how we can avoid it in the future. It wasn't like partisan. It was very informational. So anyway,
I completely agree. We need a COVID-19 commission badly. And I hope we don't let that just like die. I hope we don't let that fall by the wayside.
Maybe it's just the detective in me. I just would really like to know if this was pangolins or a lab leak or whatever in between. I just want to know where it came from so we can avoid it in the future.
I'm 100% open to a commission that truly finds that out and tells us.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm with you.
Listen, I've been dealing with business insurance for 3 decades. I kid you not. Switching providers has always been a nightmare. Too expensive, takes too much time, and often doesn't guarantee you're going to get any better coverage. But now you can make switching radically simple with Embroker. Embroker is the perfect destination for industry-tailored commercial insurance. It's business insurance specifically for startups. Yes, you're listening to This Week in Startups. That's why they're here. That's why we're here. Embroker's single application will help your startup get 4 quotes for 4 lines of coverage in but 15 minutes. They match you with expert brokers for unmatched service that goes well beyond your policy. And listen, Embroker is so amazing. I use it. Again, it's just like a testimonial here. I use it. I love it. My team loves it. Makes life easy. Try Embroker today with the code TWIST and you get 10% off their startup package. Embroker.com/twist. Embroker, EMBROKER.com/twist. And use that promo code TWIST for 10% off. We love the product. Thanks for supporting us for so many years here at This Week in Startups.
All right. In other important news in our industry, these Google layoffs were quite significant. And there has been a lot of hand-wringing about it over the last couple of days. And I think it's worth us double-clicking on because to set the table for this, as we've discussed, Google created the culture of entitlement in Silicon Valley. This is a known fact. They said, let's make a campus. Let's provide Neiman Ranch steaks. Let's put an infinite swimming pool in and volleyball. And you'll never want to leave the campus because our employees are so dedicated. We just want to make it like you don't even have to grow up. You can be Peter Pan here. We'll give you dinner, 3 square meals a day. Lattes, we got Wi-Fi
snacks on the buses. You never have to stop working.
Yeah, just go all in and don't worry about doing any other work. It was cynical, right, to get you to work more. And it was also a result of them having a money printing machine. They
Yes.
never had to think about costs because, my Lord, so many people were using Google and so many people were clicking on ads that it was irrelevant. The spend for that business was largely irrelevant.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, all at once, like a bolt of lightning from the sky,
Yeah.
it was no longer irrelevant. And on Friday,
Mhm.
Google laid off on Friday and over the weekend. Google laid off 12,000 people, roughly. Sent an email to the company's staff. Sundar Pichai, Google CEO, sent an email on Friday saying that they would lay off these 12,000 people, reaching a total number of about 28,000 roles, I think. And then these layoffs, a couple things about this have been really interesting. The reverberations of the layoffs have been nonstop. And because I think there were a couple big differences. One, when Meta and Amazon both had huge layoffs recently, those were leaked, which means they were effectively announced in advance. So people were a little bit prepared for these layoffs, and those companies were fairly transparent about the divisions within the company that would be cut. The information about the Google layoffs was not leaked or announced in advance. It was effectively announced at the same time the layoffs were happening. Yeah. And even like a teeny bit after some of them happened. And then the cuts themselves were not confined to any particular low performing division or, area that we knew they wanted to restructure. It was like really, I know someone, like a very high level, high performing employee who got cut. And then there were sort of lower level, like last in, first out kind of layoffs. But it was like, it did not feel that there was a big kind of rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
And so as a result, and then Sundar Pichai's statement about it was very vague, right? He said, we've undertaken a rigorous review across product areas and functions to ensure that our people and roles are aligned with our highest priorities as a company. The roles we're eliminating reflect the outcome of that review. They cut across alphabet product areas, functions, levels, and regions. Which is like, anywhere you are, you're not safe.
Nobody's safe, yeah.
And so then as a result, there has been collective of everything you said, right? About how how happy and cushy it was to be there. And this kind of like haphazard and extremely abrupt execution. Oh my God, people are losing their minds.
Multiple things can be true at the same time.
Yep.
What makes this very unique is the culture of entitlement and the packages at Google were so extraordinary. And again, who created the culture of entitlement? Management. So not created by the employees. This was offered to the employees, and obviously they took the matcha lattes. They took the dry cleaning. They
Totally.
took what was offered to them
They
as
rode
any
their little
reasonable person would.
bikes.
Whatever it is, this was Google's strategy, is to make it so good to work there that you would never think of leaving, or it'd be very difficult to leave.
Yeah.
For them to then cut people off was shocking to those people. But for the rest of the world, they're watching this, or even in the rest of tech, a lot of people are watching this and going like, are these people for real? Or like, there was this a day in the life of trend on TikTok where people would say like, here's my day, and I go to the gym and I go to a yoga room and then I get my matcha latte, and people found it, let's be honest, a lot of people found it offensive.
Yeah.
Of how good these people had it, how well paid they are. So there's a little Schadenfreude occurring here. But what's very unique about this in the Google case is they're all going to TikTok.
Right.
I mean, and explaining what happened. And this one is Kimberly Diaz. We didn't contact her, so we assume this is a real TikTok. That this isn't an actor doing it, but she's done a ton of videos, and here's 61 seconds of her talking about her layoff. We cut this down a little bit for brevity.
I was on a client site, client visit. I had dinner the night before with a client, and I was specifically working for YouTube. What I was doing was working with influencers and creators. Dinner the night before, like meeting all the way up to the CMO. So we had a great dinner, and I was like, okay, great. I'll be there tomorrow. And my colleagues who were also on the business trip that weren't impacted, thank God. I get up at like 6 a.m. or so. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put the final touches on the presentation and then I'm going to get ready for this 10 a.m. call. And so I couldn't get into my email, but for some reason my chat still worked. I think I got in it before they closed it down because it was so early. So I texted my colleague who was there, who was also leading the meeting, to be like, hey, are you having an issue with your email? Here's my phone number. And then maybe 10 minutes later, I got a follow-up email from Google that was like, your position's eliminated, effective immediately. And so she was kind enough to share her credit card with me so I could like change my flight and get home as soon as possible. And that speaks to the caliber of people that are at Google.
Your reaction, Molly?
I heard a similar story. So, and again, this is the kind of, it is not uncommon when you get laid off to then lose access to your work accounts, right? That's a super standard layoff procedure.
Yeah.
What seems to have happened at Google is that they turned off people's access, laid them off, then announced the layoffs. Like there seems to be some ordering things that are happening here.
Yeah.
But it is also interesting that seemingly, as we watch more of this woman's videos, she works in creator partnerships at YouTube. And YouTube is one of course, Google's fastest growing segments, but according to reports is not profitable. So maybe they were, again, we don't know. There hasn't been a lot of transparency and on some level, they don't have to tell us what divisions they're cutting and why and whatever. But yeah, what's super interesting about this is that Google has had not only this culture of I'm so allergic to that word entitlement, and I'm trying to figure out a better word, even though I guess
luxury,
it is that,
luxurious,
right?
luxurious
luxury
existence. I don't know, luxury.
Yeah, and also and
cushy
and kind of. I guess entitlement, as the literal definition of the word entitlement goes, yes, that is the best word here.
Untaxing,
and they've also had this culture of outspokenness, and it's funny because we used to speculate way back in the day when I was at Marketplace, we would speculate that it's because of stock compensation that tech employees got this sense of entitlement also, right? It was like, oh, we're owners here, we're shareholders, we are just as entitled as anybody else to have our opinion about the way things have been run. And Google in particular has got an outspoken employee base.
Oh, they do, yeah.
And now they have an outspoken laid off employee base, pulling no punches out here, naming names. This woman went on to make another video calling it corporate greed. There was one about a big investor who thought they should have made more cuts. This is not landing that well out in the world.
So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance. That's really, I think, challenging for people. Now, there's no way to do a layoff correctly. There are only
unless you're
degrees of poorly that you can do them.
Airbnb nailed it. I maintain forever. Airbnb did it perfectly at the beginning of the pandemic, but yes.
So you can, nobody is complaining about the severance packages and all these TikTok videos and everything. People are like, oh my God, this is incredible, the severance.
100%.
So great job there. But you do have to take people's access off. There seems to be some consensus in HR that you can't let people back into the building. You have to do it on Friday. You got to do it at whatever time so that you don't have the office, God forbid, some office violence occurs or some sabotage occurs. There seems to be some legal insurance best practice that's now been established that it has to be swift and there is no goodbyes. There's no goodbye party unless people self-organize it. There's no hanging around the office, which is different than Google did it in the past. When they did their last little quiet riff, they had said, you have 60 days to find another job. So go explore other jobs. In this case, they were just sort of cutthroat about it. If you're a small business owner or you manage hiring at your company, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members that you surround yourself with. That's obvious. And this is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently. They match open roles with the people who have the skills, values, and experience that you're looking for. LinkedIn has now, wait for it, 875 million members, and they are the most qualified people at every level of employment. And if you have a strong following like me, you can add that purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And watch how much inbound you get. It happens so quickly. We love their easy-to-use tools, screening questions that filters out the non-serious candidates. It's so simple. The most qualified people in the world are on LinkedIn, and a bunch of them are looking for opportunities right now. So go find amazing candidates today. In 2023, you want to fill your team with amazing candidates you find on LinkedIn Jobs because you need to be lean and mean. And that's exactly what we did at launch. We found some of our best team members on LinkedIn. Here's your call to action. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to, and it helps you do that faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/twist. That's linkedin.com/TWIST to post your first job listing free. Of course, terms and conditions do apply. But there's a cognitive dissonance here between why is a company that's so wildly profitable with so much cash making these cuts? And that's, I think, what she points out in her next video, which we can play here really quick, which is why is this happening if they're so profitable?
Answer why layoffs are happening, and that is corporate greed. Carbs don't count this week. Before I went to business school, I didn't really understand layoffs. I thought it was because the company must have been in real dire financial strain. Maybe they wouldn't be able to pay people and keep going. But it is because of greed, and I will show you why. Guess how much Google did in profits last quarter? Literally, take 2 seconds and guess. Did you guess 17 billion in profit? That's your revenue minus your expenses. What it's about, though, is short-term profits. And so they lay all of us off, and what happens? Stock went up 5%.
Yep, there you have it. I mean, that she is not wrong.
No, she's not
This
wrong.
is about the stock price. This is
100%.
about the shareholders, the large shareholders.
And we talked about this last week when Meta, we talked about it when Meta did it. We talked about when Microsoft did it. This is about countering for shareholders and large investors the ongoing drop in stock price and creating an error. And look, this is the bargain of work, right?
Yep.
Work doesn't love you back.
No.
No matter how comfortable you feel, at any point, priorities can change, business goals can change, stock price can trump a bigger investor, can trump the needs of, your rank and file employees. And that is true. And I'm talking to a lot of friends who are, highly placed at companies who are having to make really, really tough calls right now. And who do kind of want to say to this poor woman with the macarons who had a crappy layoff. I'm not going to say that she didn't. That sucks.
Yeah.
And this is work. This is business.
Yeah, it's not
Now,
personal, it's business. It
I
feels
think Google, Google, this is a classic Google action in that Google has never been good at people. It is not that surprising to me that they were going to come along and do this kind of ham-fistedly and screw up the timing a little and just be well, you have to turn off the access of the person. Yeah, but you also could announce that you're going to have some layoffs and people have time to prepare. Right? There are ways to soften the blow a little bit. It's sort of classically non-EQ Google.
This is all about these activist
To do it
investors
this way.
now. The activist investors see an opportunity to buy these shares at a very low price. I just opened jtrading.com today and I was I beat the market now. Suddenly I'm back in the game. Now I'm excited to start buying stocks again. It was really interesting to see my own psychology.
Right.
The second I see I'm up
You're
compared to
"It
the market, I'm I should place more bets. But I did place some bets in the really down market, right? Remember, it's really hard to make those bets when things are on the floor. And now I'm why didn't I make more bets in the down market? I'm sure it'll go down again. But it's part of the reason I'm trying to be a more active public market investor is to try to understand this. And the best trade I made was the day Facebook decided they would lay people off. And I made that trade and it's up 50%, I think.
Wow.
In 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So there is something here. And if you remember this activist investor named TCI, they gave Sundar this 5-point plan and they said, hey, and I'm just giving a quote here, we acknowledge that Alphabet employs some of the most talented and brightest computer scientists and engineers, but they represent only a fraction of the employer base. Many employees are performing general sales, marketing, and administrative tasks who should be compensated in line with other technology companies. So this woman who we just saw, who's in sales, this is who TCI was talking about. I think very specifically,
Probably.
We just want you to fire people who are in TCI's mind. I'm not saying in reality, overcompensated. And there's, and this is the chart that they showed, here's the median, here's Microsoft, here's Alphabet. And Microsoft obviously did theirs. What's also stunning is they let go of people who'd been there for 10, 15 years. I saw somebody 16 and a half years at Google. And they should have, I think, taken a different approach with anybody over 10 years.
I think so too.
I think they should have had people with over 10 years. They should have brought them into a room and said, your time at Google's coming to a close. We want to celebrate you for the next 60 days. You have the option to wrap things up, whatever, and had a different path for them, probably. But
I kind of think so too. Like I just, there is a way to do this that is a conscious uncoupling of your employment, right? That like makes people understand that this is a business priority. This is a change. This is like, these are things that have to happen. We're sad we've treated you with respect. Like that we're going to look at, in a year or two, we're going to look around and look at the kind of like the Twitter effect and talk about the companies that treated their departing employees with respect and acknowledge their role in creating the entitlement culture, and the ones who were just like, we're done with that now, goodbye.
Yeah.
And booted them right on there, don't let the door hit you.
These companies can run with a much smaller footprint. And if that's what these TCIs of the world, if that's what the Brad Gerstners of the world want in order to buy the shares in the company again,
that's what's
management will eventually acquiesce. And that's what we're seeing here. The only company that hasn't is Apple, which was very slow in adding people. But TCI was not pleased with the 12,000. So as hardcore as Sundar went, here's
they
what
wanted more.
Christopher Hahn of TCI said to Sundar, I'm encouraged to see that you're now taking some actions to right-size Alphabet's cost base and understand that it's never an easy decision to let people go. Okay. Decision cut 12,000 is a step in the right direction. It does not reverse Alphabet's headcount growth in 2022. Ultimately, management will need to go further.
I mean, it's
believes
true. They added
reduce the amount of employees to 150, bring them to 2021.
And address excessive employee compensation. He thinks they should pay people less. Let's go back though and put a little spotlight on the fact that the median compensation at Google is $300,000. The median.
So if you put 100 employees, number 50 would be this, the one right in the middle, median.
Yeah.
Not average, because you have some huge paid people there, like CEOs and management, but the median, yeah, I mean, it's bonkers.
67% higher than Microsoft. Yeah. Like, that's pretty nutty.
It's pretty nutty. One thing to take in, to realize here, as people deal with this cognitive dissonance,
right.
Two things. Number one, you as an employee at Google are part of the machine. You know this. They look at you like any other expense item, slightly more than the nut milk or the office space or the servers, certainly, right? But ultimately, TCI and these other places do not.
No.
They look at you as a line item. And they've analyzed the line item and said, too much, just enough servers, too much nut milk, too many non-technical people, whatever it is. They're just looking at it like private equity, market participants who are picking one stock over another. And they've deemed, a number here. And then everybody who is part of that number now has to, deal with this cognitive dissonance. But how you frame it as an individual, I think, is what's critically important. You could frame it as, I am no good. They only let go of this small percentage of people, and therefore I was let go. You could also say, well, I negotiated an incredible salary for a large number of years, was amongst the highest paid in the world at my profession. So I did a great job of negotiating myself out of the job. I was one of the first people let go because I did such an amazing job, getting compensated. And so you could take a very positive view of it.
Yeah.
In that way. And then you could also take a positive view of this, as I said on Twitter, which is really tweaking for a certain group of people. And I kind of made the tweet for that reason.
Yeah, you did.
I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I was like,
did.
10,000 people laid off. 3 founders per, 3,000 new startups. You have 6 to 12 to 18 months of runway. Go find 2 of your cohorts and do a revenge startup. Now, will everybody do that? Is everybody in a position to do that? Obviously not. People
not everybody's an entrepreneur.
Want to start a company.
Exactly. Like, it's entrepreneurs. What is it? 6 or 7. There was that story that was like, there's a genetic predisposition toward becoming a founder. And they were like, it's 6 or 7% of the population.
Maybe. That might be true.
We do have to acknowledge that most people are simply not like of that cloth.
I think all people could be, though.
Yeah.
So while most
I mean, I like
aren't,
that outlook.
all could.
Yeah.
And that's where I get myself in trouble on the social media, because I actually believe all people could do it, because I've watched all kinds of people
I
do
think
it.
if you said that, actually, it would be pretty inspiring. It's the surface elite part that
Oh, well, no, I think
tweaks folks.
people have to take that head on. If the surplus elites term is a little bit jarring, I think, for people, but I think people should own it. Like, if you now push everybody to a remote culture, what you've done is you've said, okay, learn how to manage people remote. Great. Congratulations, you won that battle. Now you're up against people in Canada. You're up against people in Manila, Sao Paulo. That's the back channel I heard too, as well, was, Microsoft has many offices around the world, and it's a lot cheaper in those international offices to hire and find, high quality tech talent. So that's the other thing that's happened, I think, here.
Yeah.
Which other video should we play?
We should play the one who is the Google employee who is basically like, yeah, Google created an arms race for spending and coddling that we do in fact need to reverse. Like, he had sort of more of an analysis about it.
Okay, let's hear it.
12,000 employees were laid off today at Google. I was lucky enough to not be one of those 12,000, but I think the fact that this happened signals a huge shift in the tech industry as a whole in the next few years. Historically, Google has been one of those rest and vest companies. You go there towards the middle or end of your career, they have great culture, great perks, great pay, and you ride it out till the end. You're not gonna have to overwork yourself like you will at some other companies, and you're gonna get to work on things that ideally you enjoy working on. I think Google breaking precedent and doing these layoffs despite the image that they have historically had is big, because it shows that at a ton of these big companies, the problems that need solving are towards the end of their lifespan. Think of Instagram, for example. How do you handle someone with 100 million followers like a Kim Kardashian? That's a huge engineering problem, but now that's solvable, and a ton of companies know how to do that. It's common knowledge. You can figure it out on the internet for free. So I think we're gonna see a shift. A lot of these traditional companies need engineers for maintenance, but they don't need a ton of engineers to improve anything, really, because we're at the max of what this technology can be. So I think the shift is going to be over to AI, ChatGPT, its parent company OpenAI, and a lot of those companies are going to become the new rocket ships that people are going to want to ride to the top. I know it wasn't just Google that was affected. A ton of employees from really great companies were also affected. So all the best to everyone in the job market right now. Use the comments to reach out. If you're hiring, let people know. If you're looking, let people know. But I think we're going to see a huge shift in the tech industry in 2023.
Your reaction, Molly?
I think that's
what
also
do you think
such
is the
a
most
great
interesting part? Yeah.
First of all, I love him. How darling is he? Like, if you're in the comments, like, let people know if you're hiring. Very sweet.
Yeah.
I think he makes such an outstanding executive point, which is that companies hired for the business they were building when building that business was really hard. Yep. The technology it took to build those businesses. I mean, like, my opinion on learn to code.
Yeah.
Don't bother. Machines will be doing that any minute now. So they hired for the companies they were building then. They don't need as many people. The technology is not as hard. The technology itself is commoditized, and the businesses are mature. So these are now growth companies instead of high growth companies, but they have high growth numbers of employees. But honestly, I keep going back to the fact that so many of those employees, that more than 12,000 of those employees were added in 2022. This is where I think there was massive leadership failure at these companies to be like, hot damn.
When cognitive dissonance happens, people tend to point fingers and try to find, somebody who's wrong in all of this. I think this guy nailed it.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems, like how do you scale servers? How do you make a feed of all the followers, all that stuff? Like, these were very hard technical things. You put hundreds of engineers on it. And now it's like, oh no, you can just use this piece of software. There's a cloud software for that. There's an open source kit. Boom, press a button. It's done.
Yeah. You nailed it.
And
we're transitioning to a totally new type of business, maybe.
Yeah.
With AI and all the people who are here working on creator stuff. That's not what we do anymore, maybe.
And milk it for profits. At the end of AOL's lifespan, when they had millions of people, or, they peaked at 30 million people paying $30 a month. Pretty incredible, over $10 billion a year in access fees for dial-up. Towards the end, they laid off a ton of people, and they just would milk hundreds of millions of dollars in profits per month out of the AOL dial-up business, and then reinvested in content businesses that they bought, including my own. And so, he's not wrong here. When you get to the end of a cycle, you want to milk Google Search or Chrome or Google Docs, or YouTube. You want to milk it for profits. And that was, I think, one of the other problems here is everybody was, what I saw in a lot of the videos is like, I don't understand. My report was great. My review was great. I hit all my numbers. We hit our numbers collectively. Why am I losing my job? And it's like, we need to be more profitable going into a recession, et cetera.
And yes, I'm sorry to tell you, everybody, $17 billion in profit is not enough for late stage capitalism. It's just not.
Well, I mean, it has to grow.
And if your stock price is not going up, exactly, that number has to keep going up. That's the deal.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that's the deal. It can be very frustrating. We all agree there are things that are very frustrating about late stage American capitalism, but that is the freaking deal.
I do think what we're going to see here is like, perhaps we just witnessed peak employment, like a peak employment moment in the history of humanity.
Yeah, actually.
Like, the idea that people could be this incredibly compensated and this incredibly coddled, they're no fault of their own. Again, it's a free market. People participated in this on the buy side, willingly. But I think this might have been peak. And now with this globalization that's occurring through remote work, globalization kind of changes everything. And
AI.
And AI is just going to accelerate it even more.
I mean, those two things, those two tides are crashing together right now.
Yeah.
In the perfect storm.
My understanding is like when people use one of these GitHub, like auto-completing, suggesting development tools, that it's starting to have like a 10, 20, 30% impact on people, making them that much faster. And so you might not need as many developers. You certainly don't need it to maintain a product, but even creating new product, it might take a much smaller number of developers to make really interesting things. And then there's a rumor going on in Silicon Valley that Sergey and Larry are coming back. That's the rumor.
Do we have thoughts on that rumor?
I think
a big earthquake just hit Google. And that earthquake is named ChatGPT. Like, no, I do not. I think they thought they had all the time in the world to keep on incubating the cool stuff, the DeepMind, the whatever. And it was like, all of a sudden, you don't.
Listen, I'm a bulldog guy, but us dog owners, we've been totally spoiled with the ridiculous number of dog sitting and dog walking apps that are out there today. There are a ton of places to get a great dog walker or to have somebody watch your dog when you're away on a business trip, on a ski trip, whatever it is. But what about my cat people? Well, I've got the perfect solution for you. It's called Meowtel. It is the #1 cat sitting app available right now for you on iOS and Android. Meowtel sitters have over 60,000 5-star reviews from happy cat parents. And they really are parents. Cat people. And you're probably one of them. All sitters are fully vetted and insured. And they offer once or twice daily drop-in visits or overnight stays in your home so that your cats can enjoy playtime and cuddles in the comfort of their regular environment. A meet and greet is included with each reservation so you can ensure the perfect fit. And your sitter will send detailed updates and photos of each visit to let you know how your feline friend is doing. Meowtel provides a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and a team of support specialists will help make sure you have a perfect experience. So here is your call to action. Use the code TWIST25 for $25 off your first booking. That's TWIST25 for 25% off at Meowtel, Meowtel. Go ahead and search for it in the App Store. OpenAI just codified the partnership with Microsoft, as we were getting on air. And so all the stuff we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks about, hey, this was a nonprofit company, for-profit company, basically that's been answered. There was a series of blog posts today. They're going to have OpenAI as a for-profit company that is owned. Somali, maybe you could tee this up for us, just what's going on now with OpenAI and Microsoft.
Yeah,
so their deal.
So basically, a new blog post came out today from OpenAI and Microsoft that actually just codifies a lot of the stuff we already told you. It's stuff we've been seeing over the past few weeks. For example, Microsoft and OpenAI worked together to build supercomputing systems powered by Azure, which OpenAI uses to train all their models. We told you some of that. Microsoft will increase its investment in Azure systems to accelerate OpenAI's independent research. We told you that. Azure will remain the exclusive cloud provider for all OpenAI workloads across its research, APIs, and products. And then OpenAI is focused on learning from real world use of the products. Now, this is one of the things that we didn't tell you, it is fairly obvious because for OpenAI to continue to get smarter, it's going to need to interact with the real world. But I would say that even though this is sort of like a bland little line in that blog post, that's the headline. That's the thing that's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be like the time that Microsoft released that chatbot that immediately became like the most racist mega grandpa you ever met, or OpenAI is going to get smarter and smarter and smarter in a safe and way that's healthy for society. But like,
reinforcement learning, I think, is the term of art, RL, and it's an area of machine learning. And so you take actions making your PowerPoint, it learns. Just like sometimes if you do a Google search, it might ask you like, did this give you an answer? How good was this answer? Or ChatGPT asks you, how good was this answer? So that reinforcement learning, that'll happen over time. People driving through in a self-driving sense, in a self-driving AI, how do people take this particularly gnarly traffic circle? Well, if you have 1 million people navigate the traffic circle, you can kind of infer some behaviors. And if there's accidents, you can infer solutions for it. So
but
that's, I think,
it is also OpenAI like starting to now get trained on real world, constantly incoming data. And that's a big shift. I don't know if that's going to be reflected in its interface in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But to the extent that it is, it makes it way more useful, right? No more of those like my information stopped at 2021, or I can't give you any information about individuals. Like when you like ChatGPT yourself, and it's like, I can't tell you anything about yourself. It'll be really, really interesting to see what that interface starts to look like once the whole fire hose of internet, maybe not the whole thing, but more of it is turned on.
And I think ChatGPT is floating this $42 per month premium version. I think the $42 a month premium version is, for $600 a year or whatever it winds up being. For a business individual, it's like, do you need a researcher? Do you need a personal assistant? If they can actually do things like book hotels for you, or, what we thought would happen with what were called intelligent agents back in the day, this could be quite transformative. So people are starting to see some solicitation. People are posting screenshots. And I told people earlier, I'd taken the survey to become a ChatGPT Pro user. And I put my pricing at $50 a month. So it seems like they're going with $420. I'm sorry, $42 dollars and 0 cents. Seems like the pricing is getting pretty predictable in our market.
It seems to be. OpenAI, speaking of pricing, will remain, they confirmed, OpenAI will remain a capped profit company. Returns for the first round of investors are capped at 100x investment. Microsoft will invest that $10 billion. Remember, we reported this at a $29 billion valuation and get 75% of OpenAI's profits until it recoups that $10 billion. And then after that, it'll revert to profits. If they ever have profit.
And that's not revenue, that's profits.
Right.
So if they have a 20% margin, they have to make $50 billion in profits more. They make more than that because they only get 75% of them. So
yeah.
Fascinating. Congrats to Microsoft. And I think, the rumors, based on my sources, are true that Larry and Sergey will be spending more time at Google. This is what I've heard.
Yeah. That's a fire. That fire got lit. That would be great.
It'd be great to have them super engaged and thinking about how to manifest this stuff into a product that actually generates revenue. At the core of Google's success, you have to remember, is the Google click-based ad network. The search and the spider and PageRank, all of that was incredible. That was the use case. Then there was a business case, a way to monetize that, which was also in sync. We have to see if ChatGPT can come up with something for that. It might be, just a subscription model. And who in the world is not going to pay $42 a month, $600 a year? Anybody who makes even but $20 an hour, that's only 30 hours a year. If a person works 2,000 hours a year, you need only be 15% more effective to hit the break-even point, right? So just to go to that math, $20 an hour divided into $600 a year for ChatGPT or a competitive product is 30 hours. Average human puts in 40 hours a week times 50 weeks, 2,000 hours a year, 30 hours. No, it's like even a fraction of that. It's not even 300. It's not 15%. It's 1.5. 1.5% of your year. Like, you're certainly going to be more than 1.5 more percent or 5% more efficient with a ChatGPT like service.
And that, friends, is the back of the envelope math that gets you to point two to round 2 of peak employment.
Peak employment it might be a peak oil. Remember peak oil? We're going to hit peak oil.
I have only written half of it so far, but the title of my forthcoming newsletter this week is Don't Learn to Code, Learn to Wire. Like become an electrician. Now is the time to do that.
Mollywood.substack.com.
That's right.
And I did see across the wire that activist investor Elliot Management made a multi-billion-dollar was making in Salesforce.
So Elliot Management has, by the way, is the activist investor that instigated Jack Dorsey's departure in some ways as CEO of Twitter. Certainly stopped him from like goofing off to Africa for a year to run the company from there. Moving to Africa.
Yeah.
Elliot has taken a quote made a multi-billion-dollar investment in Salesforce, according to Wall Street Journal sources. Salesforce has $156 billion market cap, so assuming a single-digit percentage ownership. But Elliot is not the first, apparently, activist investor to come in. Another one came in saying that they were worried about margins and overall profitability. Elliot usually asks for things like board representation, pushes for operational improvements like changing up sales and executives. Starboard Value is the one that came in October and said that the company had a valuation discount because of the subpar mix of growth and profitability. And I think this is so dishy because, as you know, I think something's going on at Salesforce. And to be honest, I've had a decade of like spidey senses about this company. Like I'm like, they feel like they make too much money. And I can't quite tell how, even though I understand the pricing model.
Salesforce isn't cheap. It's they have a lot of SaaS products they've bought over time. Subscriptions were a booming business. Now people are tightening their belts. Their customers might be renegotiating contracts. So there's going to be
saturation.
Saturation has occurred, as you said. Yeah. So that cycle is well underway. This means more layoffs. I mean, let's just call it what it is. They said they're going to lay off 10,000. I think this means like, maybe
20.
Maybe it means 20. And that's really the only cost they have. I mean, it's real estate, et cetera. But, the reoccurring cost of highly paid tech employees is now these activist investors, they smell blood in the water. I think that's what's happening here. The sharks smell blood in the water.
Oh, yeah.
These companies are underpriced. They could be highly profitable if they cut even deeper. And let's see, is in their mind, they're like, let's see if you put another 10,000 people out of a job and we have 20,000 laid off Salesforce employees, what this looks like.
I wonder if we see like a Slack. I mean, Salesforce also went on a big buying spree. I wonder if we see like a Slack go back up on the block.
Problem with that would be, I think it's doing decent revenue. And so you might just want to operate it for, to continue to get profits from it.
I guess I sort of feel like at some point other than the stock bump, I mean, granted, we're talking about tens of, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of employees, but like how much marginal savings can you actually accomplish over time with cuts? Like some, but if an Elliot Management is wanting growth in the Bs,
they could cut half the staff. That's the truth in a lot of.
But that's what they would have to cut, right? To really have a meaningful.
20% would have meaningful.
Yeah,
like because all that just throws right to the bottom line, right? After 3 months or 6 months of the severance payments, once that gets washed out, and so I think what people are doing is they're making two bets. The economy comes back, in 3 or 4 quarters, we start to see growth in the economy, and you make these cuts, and so then the cuts come and they hit, let's say 2, 3, 4 quarters out, and the economy comes back 3, 4, 5 quarters out. You have two tailwinds. You lowered costs and revenue started to grow again. So I think this is why savvy shark-like investors are making these bets now.
Right. That makes sense. Yep. All right. Well, that's what's happening.
2 ways to win.
At Salesforce. And then we got to do this quick. We live in the future.
Oh, yes. I saw this go by my feed. NVIDIA has broadcasting software. So I just downloaded it on my Windows machine, on my Dell. It's called NVIDIA Broadcast 1.4. But they had this really cool feature where it will change your eyes to make you look into the camera perfectly. And so here, watch this video. It's kind of this one is pretty good. You'll see his eyeballs, if you're watching, are staring directly into the camera instead of reading a script like I'm doing now, or like reading another monitor off to my right. And
it's not real.
It's not real. Do you notice his pupils seem a little bigger?
Yeah.
Also, but slightly, it's pretty close,
slightly fixed and terrifying. Because, well, and the only reason it's fixed and terrifying is because he's reading. Right? You make a different, like you don't. If you're just making eye contact with someone, you look away occasionally, or you kind of look down. You know, it looks unnatural because he's reading a script with a sort of a fixed gaze, and then that fixed gaze is right at the camera. So then it starts to be like, oh, bro, okay, you are really staring me down right now. But let's not gloss over the fact that AI made his eyeballs look at the camera instead of off of the screen. Like that is what?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What?
You're going to, the uncanny valley is here. This is just on desktops, like we talked about Luke Skywalker appearing in Mandalorian or de-aging in the Obi-Wan series. Like all this technology is kind of the same. And so you can touch up your appearance in Zoom. NVIDIA lets you look directly into the camera. I mean, all these things are going to the point where you're going to, be able to do all of this at a operating system level. So when you use something like this NVIDIA one, it rechannels your camera basically and your audio. So your speaker and your video, when you're using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Discord, Slack, we use huddles, you can basically feed in your NVIDIA studio. So kind of cool how it works, instead of picking whatever your current camera is, creates that new input of like, here's the NVIDIA camera. It's pretty neat.
It really is. I mean, honestly, because so many now, especially that we're doing so much live streaming or video conferencing or, presentations, like we're doing meetings that involve notes. And it's hard to figure out where to look. Like we have cameras positioned above our monitor so that it looks like there's a natural eye line as I'm like talking to you, the audience, for example. But if I have to look down at my notes, then I'm like, looking down here. And I could conceivably, you would never notice the difference between me talking directly to you via camera and me glancing down at my notes to read that it's broadcast 1.4.
It's pretty neat. It also, on top of the eye contact, it does pretty cool feature where if you move around in the frame, it will recenter you. So for people who are doing a live stream, like if they're DJing or they're a video gamer and I go to the left here, I go to the right, it just recenters you even if you're moving, as if a camera operator was tracking you. Pretty neat feature to have tracking built in. It's a neat piece of software, and I think it's just the beginning. So I'll be built into the operating system.
Yeah, it's pretty bananas. Pretty bananas, friends. Steven, soon you won't need us. Okay, thanks everybody. On that creepy, uncanny valley note, we are going to leave. As far as I know, we will not be replaced by AI. We should be, in fact, back here tomorrow. But yeah, the AI might be so good that you can't even tell.
It'd be great if the AI could get rid of this raspy voice in real time and just make me not seem sick. If you want to help out the show, fill out the listener survey. thisweekinstartups.com/survey. I'm going to give 10 people a $50 gift card from Amazon for filling out the gift card. thisweekinstartups.com/survey. Fill it out completely. Takes a couple minutes, and it helps us when we sell ads, which then helps us keep the show thriving.
Yeah. You want us here every day, right? You don't want an AI. Fill out the survey.
Fill out the survey. Yeah. Have your AI fill out the survey.
There you go. Please don't lie on the survey. Please don't have a computer lie for you. All right.
I mean, eventually, your AI might actually do a better job on surveys.
I mean, ChatGPT makes up all kinds of lies, apparently, which is hysterical.
I mean, it's going to be very interesting when your doctor's AI talks to your AI about your health plan. I think that's going to be the next piece of this.
Everybody you have to all go read a Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson, because it is the perfect, it shows you what this is going to look like when we all have what is effectively a tablet. It's called a lady's primer. That's just our constant companion and informational butler.
There you have it. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.